Going live. It's been a little bit wonky at times with Zoom. We're actually going to test uh, another one app or whatever you want to call it as well. So I'm streaming it onto our Talk Hole page. If you care to share it, I keep doing it on my personal one, and I decided I should probably just.
Where do I find it?
So if you go to Talk Hole on Facebook, it says it's streaming. Up, it is. I see us. There we are. Party. I hear us. Share this to my personal page. Bam.
Nice.
Huh? No, our Talk Hole page, like our Facebook page, fan page. All that jazz. Cool.
Is it a group?
Yeah. As we jump into this, as people jump into this, I'm really excited. This is going to be episode, I think, 64 on Mentor in the Mirror podcast. This is Ta, and I am Cole, for those that don't already know. And we're having epic conversations with all of the amazing people that we know. And today, that is going to be Brandon and Deb Yager, who do all of the NLP trainings, in particular for businesses here in Austin. Anyone in Austin knows them, adores them, loves them. And what I would love to jump into, because of y'all's expertise, is talking about what awareness people could have, right? I don't want to say should, what awareness people could have with how this current climate is creating new neural pathways, new states of being, and what the impacts of that could be. Or we'll just kind of jam through some conversation.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you so much for having us on. We're so honored, and we're excited to dig right in.
Absolutely. Thank you.
So with the first thing that comes to mind is one of the things that we talk about in our hypnosis training and NLP. A lot of the body of knowledge is from modeling hypnosis. And we know from hypnosis and language patterns that put you into trance, the TV is probably the biggest hypnotherapist out there.
Of
known to
all
man.
time.
Seriously. And you go into trance within less than 15 seconds of putting it on. So what that does is it bypasses what we call the critical faculty, which is the part of you that discerns between reality and fiction. And basically, it goes directly into the unconscious mind. So a lot of the work that we do in events like this, or just in general with humans, is we unprogram the unconscious mind a lot of times from belief systems that were installed by TV programs that they watched as a kid. So if you can imagine now, people glued to the TV every single day, whether the information is real or not real, it's getting installed at the unconscious mind. And so all that fear stuff that's getting programmed right now in our society is going directly into the unconscious mind. And then people will have the effect of having more anxiety showing up in their life and their body.
So for our listeners and our viewers who don't know what NLP is, could you give a brief rundown of what NLP is and what it means?
Absolutely.
What is NLP?
So N stands for neuro, like how we process information through our neurology and our sensory base. And then L stands for language, linguistics, internal language, and as well as the external communication that we use, verbal and nonverbal. And then programming stands for how to reprogram yourself and the patterns and programs that we run consciously and unconsciously.
So neuro-linguistic programming.
Yes.
Right. And this runs right along with what we do. And if you look at my Facebook page, it says that we are all brainwashed. I now wash my own brain, and I show you how to do your own brain laundry. So this NLP thing, I've been watching NLP practitioners, and I've been watching you guys and what you do, and I'm so grateful for what you do, and that I'm not the only person helping people to rewash and do their own laundry. So thank you.
Absolutely.
Amen, brother.
100%.
I love how you put it too, washing and do your own laundry.
It's awesome.
Because about the body of your work that you're doing, as well as the work we're doing, is where you can really go back and look at these belief systems and the patterns and the paradigms that you're running at the unconscious level, and then having a choice. Is this what I want, or is this something that has been passed down through generations of people, or passed through religion or social programming? So it's really having choice of what you want to believe and how you want to show up.
Yeah. Shadow too. Right?
Yeah. which is a
Yeah,
shadow.
expand on that a little bit, especially now. I feel like people can't escape themselves. So the relationship you didn't want to be in, now it's a 24/7 relationship that you didn't want to be in. So expand a little bit more on what this could be drawing up in people from y'all's perspective, Brandon.
I mean, it's definitely like what you don't know, you don't know, you know? So the unconscious, what we're not aware of, and what I mean, first of all, we have to seek something that's deeper within. And I think there's a lot of us that, you know, that our environment right now, especially, it's just triggering the hell out of us. Some of us, not all of us. And it's definitely, it's causing some things to come up. And so, you know, I look at that as a lot of unconscious, repressed material, repressed stuff. And that's the stuff that is the goal. That's the stuff to learn from.
You can say shit, because right now I think that it's shit.
Shit.
Yeah.
Perfect. I like stuff. Yeah, I get you.
This podcast is about allowing people to be free, so be you.
I like stuff too. So if you like stuff, I like stuff too. Shane, keep the stuff if you like the stuff.
Shane, put the stuff in your face, Shane.
I'm just gonna ease.
I like my F-bombs too.
Don't worry, there'll be plenty of plenty of cuss words. You know that.
Yeah, we love the acquired F-bomb here and there.
Yeah.
Strategically placed. Strategically placed.
Yeah.
100%.
You know,
So for someone listening right now, what do you think they could be doing in, like, let's say now that they're becoming consciously aware, or at least aware of some of the things they didn't know? Do you have a tool or something that you think that everyone could utilize, like currently, to take a step back and assess where they currently are?
yeah, absolutely. I mean, whenever you're triggered, so we believe that stuff that triggers you is not necessarily a bad thing. It's actually a gift and it's opportunity for growth and to become more conscious. And so we say we have grumpy projections. By the way, projections are anything that's outside of you in your movie and how things are showing up in your environment. And so we have grumpy ones that show up the way that you don't necessarily enjoy, or you have positive ones. The positive ones from the shadow aspect are stuff that you are consciously working on and aware of. The ones that show up grumpy, there's always something to learn about yourself. And so when we have this environmental, universal, whatever you want to call it, chaos, it's a perfect opportunity for you to look in and lean into those triggers to figure out really where it's coming from. Is this a fear that you've had that is getting triggered from something, you know, growing up as a child? Or is it something that's environmental? Is it something that's triggering a boundary for you? Maybe it's something that's showing you, maybe you have a pattern of being addicted to fear. So there's all different ways of looking at it from all different angles. And at the end of the day, it's going to allow you to be a stronger human being and actually tap into, once you free yourself from all that, then you can actually tap into your creativity of what you're born to be doing. I believe that this is an opportunity for humanity to really step back and have an opportunity to evaluate what they're here for and why they're here. And I think we're going to have a birth of creativity and entrepreneurship from this.
I mean, it's something that I already see. You know, people are becoming really creative, and people are actually getting to step back and sit back and see what's going on. And as they sit in their houses and they're in a safe space in their homes, their nervous systems actually get to calm down. And when their nervous systems calm down, they can actually see things from a broader perspective. And it's not just a linear horizontal perspective. It's a vertical, it's the oblique side. It's all of the different angles that people get to see things from. And so it allows more creativity to come into the brain space from the mind space. And, you know, we can get into all of that. I mean, I'll see y'all tomorrow night for dinner. We can talk about all of that. But it's, you know, the creative space that people are building from. And we have people like Mike Dillard who's encouraging entrepreneurs to lean in right now and see what it is and ask their crowds, what is it that you need so that I can create something for you to actually consume, and showing other entrepreneurs how to do that. We're building a new type of economy, a new type of global economy, because this economy that we've built as human beings, the financial system that we've built is dysfunctional, and it got us to this point, but it's not going to get us to the next space. And the currency of information and the way it goes and the way it moves back and forth, our bodies are still operating for the old paradigms. So as we move into this space, as we learn how to interact with this virus and all the other things that we're dealing with, the new energetics, 5G coming through, AI, and all of these different vibrational qualities, our bodies get to actually shift and we get to expand and create into that space. So for me, it's an exciting time for entrepreneurs and for humans in general. So I'm excited, man.
I mean, and with that, it's about the belief too, right? It's like breaking these old bullshit beliefs of that old paradigm, this 9 to 5, and that's not the creativity of entrepreneurship isn't that. And I think that's something that's massive that needs to be done is break down these beliefs, that like the fear people hold on to. I mean, we call this, there's people that are stuck. They're afraid to go out, break out of this job, go create a business, get absolutely creative in what they love, their passion, whatever that is, and go make a shit ton of money at it too. Because it's good to make money. You can help people, you can serve others. And so it's breaking through those paradigms of, oh, what will people think? If I do this, if I leave this job, if I make, too much money.
Well, now the environment has created a situation. People sometimes are unfortunately away from motivated. And so they need a pain situation environmentally or internally environmentally in order to get them moving. And so this is a great opportunity for that.
It is.
Yeah. And, this is everything that we do is out of habit, and that having to go through a painful process is an old habit space that I believe we don't need to continue that style of expansion and transformation anymore. And, that's something that Cole and I have been working on, bringing the language out about that. And we call it the transformation trap. And it's tirelessly repeating a painful process for the purpose of transformation. And it's been awesome to bring this into the light. And so I see this is where y'all are going with it. Sometimes people have to have this painful, but why? This is old shit. And we don't need to do that anymore. When we come from a space of awareness and we bolster and support each other, we don't need to do that anymore.
This virus is pulling out of the shadow into a macro example of our internal experience as a collective whole, right? So it's spreading through and making people that are sick even sicker. And our focus is still trying to prevent people from dying, not the fortification of people living. And there's a big difference when it comes to if we're going to change how we can survive these kinds of things, it's going to have to be from the standpoint of health and vitality and fortification and optimization, not from the avoidance of the worst case scenario of death. Because sure, now we're going to get a vaccine, but what happens when the next virus comes? The only surefire thing that we really have is the fortification of the individual immune system so that it can fight off more viruses to keep more people out of the hospital so that the immunocompromised can utilize the hospital. And, when you figure that a large chunk of this country is actually in a higher risk of this virus, that's a representation of where the imbalance is for the human race, because if there were less people in the hospital, then the people that actually need it, we wouldn't have an issue with them getting the support that they need. The problem is we are so ill already that the 40 million or something a year people that go to the emergency room, a lot of it is accidents. I think actually 40 million might be accidents. Regardless, check the numbers. That's the mute point.
Right.
But it's looking at how much of it is preventable and how much of it, if we actually became the expert of ourselves, physically, emotionally, spiritually, then we wouldn't be looking outside of ourselves for the expert. That includes doctors. Medicine is an amazing tool for emergencies and when we need it. But we have, as a society, become dependent on it to keep from dying, not for health. And if we don't change that, even if we get the vaccine for this rolled out, or when we do, or it's out apparently, or is being tested, we have no time to test it. We don't know on which parts of the population genetically it's going to detrimentally impact worse. And so we're kind of guessing, right? And so I feel like the only real thing we have to do is to take some of that power back for ourselves.
I wanted to ask you two, since y'all are the pros at neuro-linguistic programming, when you look at the amount of programming that people have had in themselves to be in what we call a sympathetic state, a heightened sympathetic state, which is constantly being revved up, preparing for something, preparing. How does one go into a space where they can actually get their nervous system to their sympathetic nervous system to downregulate and a parasympathetic nervous system to upregulate? Because in a heightened parasympathetic state, that's where our immune systems are at peak. How does one go about, how would you recommend one going about programming themselves?
Deprogramming or reprogramming?
Both.
D and reprogramming.
Yeah,
D
right. Totally.
There's numbers of tools that you can use with NLP, as well as the timeline therapy stuff that we do. People from our experience are in sympathetic nervous system because they've been in shock and trauma over and over and over again. And it's literally in every single cell of their body. And so they continue, it's a feedback loop, as you know, of firing and wiring, and then they have more stress and anxiety, and it just stacks upon the next. And so from our experience, the best way to do it is do a full house cleaning, whether it be with like the modalities you use, or what we do with timeline therapy is clearing out the gestalt of negative emotions and the belief systems around the identity of being a stressed out person.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a whole bunch of identity and secondary gain that's unconscious that people are carrying around. That's a feedback loop, because the doctor will give them medicine and tell them have a diagnosis, which then takes away the responsibility of actually changing the diet and actually doing the breakthrough work and looking within. And a lot of times it's completely unconscious. Sometimes it's actually conscious too, and people are choosing to do it. So from our experience is doing the deep dive work and then reworking and overhauling the entire lifestyle. And there's some simple hacks that make it a lot simpler. Meditation every day, of course, eating right, turning off the technology.
I think right now that you got to take a step back and like challenge beliefs. Like you have to really like filter the information that's coming in. That's what I'm telling people is like, are you okay with that same belief, you know, and just, are you going to challenge the old way of thinking, you know? And I think first someone has to get sick and tired of being sick and tired.
Sometimes.
And, I mean, at some level, I mean, or they're already they've been enlightened. I mean, there's got to be something though that happens, I think, where they're like, you know what, these old beliefs, they're not serving me. Like this shit's not working. I'm not getting healthier. My relationship's not better. My job isn't paying me more. You know, all these things that has to happen. Kind of like the pain which you guys talk about. It's the trap, right? TRAP.
Yeah, TRAPP.
TRAP.
The
PP.
I love what you just said, Brandon, because it is a lot that we talk about. Unfortunately, most people have to wait until they can't take it anymore. Mm-hmm. What you realize the more that you grow through this type of work is you can start to look into the future and go, wow, I can already feel this sense in my body that this isn't functional for me. So I don't have to wait until I'm over it. I can see like, wow, this is like the last time. Am I going to stretch this out another year or 2 or 10 until I can't take it anymore? Or am I going to make an empowered choice, create the systems or gain the tools or get the coach or whatever I need to move through this differently than I have in the past? And so that's really the invitation is who's looking to be guided through this, or waiting until the world is in complete disarray and you have no choice left. Amazing things can be created from that. And, you know, it's part of it too. But if you've done that enough times, do you need to do it again?
Exactly.
Yeah. And I love what Todd said, that in the beginning, for at least my own personal story, I had hit rock bottom 1,000 times to wake the fuck up, basically. And then, you know, start doing something about it. But then I realized that because I was so programmed with that, I created a self-fulfilling prophecy to where then I was almost like I was addicted to the chaos in order to get motivated to get my shit together over and over again. And like, that's a feedback loop of like, there's a whole identity about that, like the struggle. Oh, look how hard I struggle and all my pains and blah, 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 blah. Right. So then there's a point where, okay, enough is enough. And let's just get into gear, take action. And he was a big component of that. He's like, you continue to do this clear out work. You're not changing because you're not taking action on the physical plane, and you're not focusing on the new you're focusing on the old paradigm, even though that I had done a lot of releasing. So at the end of the day, it's like, okay, yes, we're in this effect, right? and it hurts, and let's change it. But then also, what are we doing next? What are we creating? And we've had these conversations before, and I love it because I am so aligned with where you guys are going with this.
Yeah, it's very mutual, sister. Very, very.
Yeah.
And that guy, that point that he made about bringing things into the physical is something that she had to bring me into.
Yeah.
So it's it's very, yeah. I mean, so this is something, and I worked in nursing, for 25 years. I'm always in the physical space with other people, but not with myself. So to have somebody reflect that to me and swing that to me changed my whole. It was just like, just everything clicked into place. So I'm grateful for perspective, and that's what we yield perspective. And so when we can volley with people like y'all back and forth, and we can share these perspectives, we have this expansion in 4 different directions, which makes it, you know what I mean? So it's pretty wonderful. So
this is the time to start for everyone to curate their life team and figure out where you're going to get your data from. It's not that we should pretend it doesn't exist, but if you're noticing impacts in your physiology, sleeplessness, agitation, restlessness, because we're kind of stuck inside, and even for homebodies, right? It's different when you can't go out. It's different when you're choosing to be home. Right. It's another when it's like, no, you can't go to the store. You can't go do parts of your routines and habits that make you feel settled, or your stores are closed or whatever. And so this is the opportunity to surround ourselves. I mean, this is why we surround ourselves with y'all. Is it because it's not that we are devoid of the other emotions, but for me, my concern is not the virus itself or any other virus for that matter. It is the ramification of fear that is being pumped through people. I can feel in my body society's stress, this like buzz of tension and stress. So even though I have 0, and the truth is, like, I understand what being in this life is all about, and it sucks to lose people and all of that. I'm not saying that any of that is not the case. It's acknowledging that right now I know, and I've done so much work around control. I know what I can control and what I cannot. And that's something I've had to do a tremendous amount of work around. So, for you guys, how are you kind of not protecting from, but being intentional with where you're getting your resources, the people you're choosing to interact with? What does that look like for you all right now?
You want to go?
I mean, definitely putting a filter on. That's one thing we've been talking to a lot of people about, is like filter the information coming in, like be very careful about where the data comes from, and just be like, just challenge the questions of, okay, for what purpose? How specifically could that be? And just really challenging just mainstream media, because talking heads are talking heads, but it's like, it's just, you got to really just challenge the information you get. I think some people just instantly grab a piece of information from Facebook or wherever, social media, and they're just like, yep, now it's a belief. Now it's law in my universe. And so that's one thing, is limit that amount of information, as I think we're getting away from so much of our own intuition, our own inner trust of like what we need to do and the decisions we need to make. I mean, the panic is just fucking unreal. We went to Costco like, I don't know, a week and a half ago, and you could just feel the tension. You just feel it. It was just crazy. It was weird. It wasn't that normal, like, weekend people are talking to each other and there's always a little bit of friendliness going on. It's just a weird fear, panic setting in. And so, that tells, I mean, exactly that. I felt it too. I mean, you could literally feel it. So one thing is filtering the information, limiting the amount of information, because it is so crazy right now. And just the people. You got that one.
And I also, like, what is the agenda behind that agenda? And what is the money backing this information? Because I've gone down rabbit holes of the alternative media too. And it's very polarizing in their beliefs. And it's okay, so where is this coming from? The fragmentation of information and the polarizingness of it in itself is questionable, which I always think is interesting. And so whenever I see that, I'm like, okay, cool. So all this is going on, but what is the bigger picture?
Fear sells a lot of shit.
Thinking about the bigger picture. And this virus in itself the fear is the virus. Yes. I mean, yes, I'm not saying there's not a virus. I'm just saying the fear porn that's getting pushed and the polarizingness and the polarity that's creating between, human beings in itself, and like this person, that is the virus. That is my belief of the unconscious collective getting projected into this reality. So what we've been doing to work with that, because I feel a lot of emotions around me as well, is we've been doing a lot of Ho'oponopono, and cutting the connection and cleansing our auras. We do archetypal meditation too, because all of this stuff is very archetypal if you look into the esoterics of what's happening. And it's very interesting, and it's a great opportunity. I'm looking at it as an opportunity of spiritual evolution as humans, as well as ourselves. And so that's what we've been doing to keep it fun, and also protecting ourselves from it as well. But then that also puts you in effect as well, because there is really nothing outside of us.
Right. And this is why, people think that there is only the polarity, that people are one extreme or the other, and it's just not the case. That's just all people are being fed in the media and where they're looking for it. If you look at you guys, us, Paleo FX, JJ Virgin, Dave Asprey, some of these big wellness professionals who have access to the most current information, statistics, numbers, you can find the middle, right? And finding resources that still share the data so that you have what you need. Besides that, you can just pop into your city's health department recommendations, every other day. What's changed? You don't need to be taking in any of the data from what's online, because this is a global pandemic at the moment. And the second you start searching for articles of how many people died today, all of your media streams, all of your advertising is going to pick up on that and create an algorithm just for you to see in your Instagram, to see in your Facebook. Like, this is what they've been collecting all of your data for, so that they can feed you the things they think that you want to see. And they're assuming you want to see it if you're searching for it even once, right? So even by being mindful that if you want to read something, what if you went and got the local city paper, or just went to that one website versus Googling something? You know what I mean? Because it changes the way that the algorithms are drawn, and your body doesn't know the difference between you reading about a mother that was only 33 that died of coronavirus or COVID-19, and you start internalizing all of the thoughts and the what ifs and what would I tell my kids, and oh, it's not just the elderly, whatever. You start making that the actuality of your imagination, and your body starts to show that dis-ease, and then your immune system starts to drop. And then let's say you have lupus or another autoimmune condition that's going to create a flare-up. Now you're sick. Now you're in even more fear because you're more compromised now, and it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. And I used to think that being empathetic or empathic was something only some people were. The truth is everyone is. It's the conscious awareness that it's happening. Is this mine? And when you watch, say, a herd of deer in a field, if one deer hears something, they all perk up. But they're reacting to the deer, not always to the sound, right? It's actually their nervous systems that are kind of tuned into, is there a threat, as much as their thoughts. So this is a time that if someone considers themselves empathetic, to make sure you're doing everything you can to keep your inflammation dumb low. I mean, like no alcohol, no refined sugars, no simple carbs, things that are going to spike your insulin and drop it down. Smoking, this is a respiratory condition as well. And, it's just something that, how easy or how difficult do you want this to be?
Yeah.
Seriously. And, thinking about all the things that y'all three just spoke on, we as a human race have been programmed in the victim space to be in fear all the time. And it's a space of disempowerment that we absorb the media that we watch. And it's this, I have to be helped by the government. I have to be helped by my mom and dad. I have to help my kids. Everybody is a victim all the time. And this is a program that's really deeply embedded into the very fabric of our DNA. When we look at this stuff, we've been victimized and we've been claiming victim forever. And so this is now another excuse for people to claim victim if they are pushed in that direction. And it's also an opportunity for people to start empowering themselves. So I can see this going in either direction. And what we're doing on our end is really helping people to be empowered by getting out the soap and the brush, opening that brain up.
Yeah. Scrub hard.
Scrubbing it out.
Get in there.
Scrubbing it out and reprogramming the way, cleaning it, using the laundry detergent that we want to use, or laundry magnets if you don't want to use detergent, right? And using the brush that you want to, getting a high efficiency washer and all of this stuff, and or hand washing it, right? Do it yourself and get in there and empower yourself, empower your mind, empower your brain, and create a new habit around that. People have been habitual about, okay, well, the news says so, and this guy's in authority, so, and this person's in this seat, so I give them all my power. And this is where we become disempowered, and then we go back in the house and we sit there and we eat sugary foods.
Right? They're like, don't touch your face, as they eat something that will be far more detrimental to your immune system than touching your face.
Yeah, get this can of chunky soup with 5,000 preservatives and all these other poisons.
Yeah.
Touch your face. Let me polish off this bottle of wine.
Yeah,
And it's not that it's something bad or wrong. It's merely understanding how the body works, and we have the opportunity to really attune ourselves to what is my body trying to tell me.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. And
100%.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And we have been talking about this for the past couple of days, is the human physiology, the spaceship that we walk around in, whatever you want to call it, meat suit, whatever. It is where viruses come in. And when the environment is right for a virus to replicate, it will replicate, right? When the environment for information is ripe to replicate, it will replicate, right? Virus is information. Oh shit, same difference, right? Same thing. Viruses have information. They know how to get into your cells, take their information, implant it in your DNA, right? So your DNA starts to replicate the virus. And it's the same thing with information. When we put the information in, if the environment is ripe for the information to replicate, it will replicate. And then when we go, oh, Cole, this person said this and blah, blah, blah. And Cole goes, oh, Brandon, this person said this, then Todd told me, and then it spreads. So do you see what I'm saying? You see the parallels here? So when we get into the programming of how we're doing, is the environment ripe? Right? Is the environment around us ripe for the replication of information and the replication of disease? And when it's not, when we are enhanced, when we are in a space of evolving to where we are resilient to all things and we can consider all things, the threat of it overwhelming us is not so heavy.
Agreed. And a meme, I mean, technically a meme is a virus that has been populated through programmed and
propagated all through.
And we know that, so the German New Medicine is one of the things that we share in the mastery level courses. And it basically is talking about your body as a biological machine. And there is certain symptomology that you have during the healing phase. And so a lot of people misunderstand that having a sore throat or a runny nose or having a cough is a negative thing. From a German New Med, you're actually in the parasympathetic nervous system. When you have the fever, that means that you're at the healing crisis. You're halfway through.
Right.
And so people, because we're in shock, and it's because we're shocked from our environment, or it could be an internal thing, something happens and then we create symptomology in the body, and then we're like, oh my gosh, it's the corona. But it's just your body's way of adapting and healing actually from the shock or trauma that you've gone through. And because I didn't sleep for 3 days, just because I was processing some information about 5 days ago. I had a sore throat. I got a fever for a little bit. The whole time though, I'm like, I'm totally healthy. This is my body healing right here, right now. And I'm fine. I'm sure there's a lot of people that are freaking out because they had a sniffle or their cough. Even when I was out still at, networking events, every time that I felt a tickle in my throat, I was like, I'm embarrassed to cough. I was in conflict of coughing in front of people because I didn't want them to think that I was sick. And then I'm like, am I sick? And so I started to second guess myself. It's just, that's a virus in itself.
Yeah. And none of us are free from that space. We all have that. that comes from the shame device. If I cough, something's wrong with me, and it might hurt this person, so I'm a threat to this person's thoughts around being
So
sick.
I'm just going to choke on this spit, damn it.
So I'll do it by myself.
I'm like,
Should just get on here and start hacking
it's
away.
like, yeah, it's like you go outside to fart or something. You have to go outside to cough now.
Yeah.
Oh, we saw a meme the other day that said, I used to cough to cover up a fart, and now I fart to cover up my cough.
Seriously.
That's awesome. I didn't see that one. But it's true. Like, just when this was announced, like how much symptomology was already created just by the sheer announcement of, oh my gosh, this is going to spread. Like, then everybody's like, all of a sudden, if you look hard enough, you'll find symptomology pretty much everywhere in someone. I mean, if that's what you're focused on.
We're healing. We're emotional beings, and we're healing stuff all the time. And so it's not unusual to have a fever every so often because you're processing something, and that's a body's way of healing it.
It's so interesting for people watching that too, for watching this. It's like, if you just go back and trace, if you're feeling whatever flu-like symptoms or anything like this now, trace it back to a week or 2 weeks. Usually chances are something emotional shook their world, just like rocked them, you know? And it could be financial. It could be this whole environment we're in. It could be relationships.
Yeah, runny nose is considered stink conflict.
Could be fear of their business.
Lungs is territorial fear conflict. This is German new medicine. I mean, it makes a lot of sense of what's going on. So yeah, throat, not being able to speak out.
Fear of dying too.
Lungs is connected to fear of dying.
Fear of death, fear of suffocating, blah, blah, blah. Delete.
We're all free from that.
Yeah. So
we always ask this on our podcast, to our guests for the most part anyway, if you could tell our listeners, so our podcast is called Mentor in the Mirror, and it's all about your best mentor is in the mirror. The person who knows the most about you and who can really advise you more than anything is you in the mirror. Your body can tell you who to go to, who to lean into, and that type of stuff. What would you recommend that in this time of questionable existence on our planet,
of opportunity,
and that's questionable existence is opportunity as well. What would you suggest that our listeners and watchers say to themselves in the mirror? One from both of you.
In the mirror?
Yeah, in the mirror.
Or to themselves.
To themselves in the mirror.
Well, I'd say probably the greatest thing that so many entrepreneurs in the space of entrepreneurship that they struggle with is fear. And it's like, if it's taking this kind of environment, this virus, to create this kind of fear, it's like, it's time to let this shit go. Like, fear is going to hold us back in our business. It's going to hold us back in sales, in finding and creating the partner that we really want, that ideal relationship. I mean, the biggest thing that I continue to see fear kill and destroy more dreams than any virus ever will is fear. And it's like, for me, it just break through that shit, go after it. Don't give a shit what other people think, just go do it. And I mean, there's a process to that. And there's sometimes it's just like sheer will, do it. I can get it done.
What would you say to look in the mirror to help that?
Take action. Like, take fucking action. I mean,
I like it. It fits on a nice little plaque. Put that on a post-it note.
What about you,
Take
Deb?
fucking action. I'm more the inspired action type. If I were to look in the mirror and going through right now, I would tell myself, so one of the mantras we say when we do inductions is your body has a perfect blueprint of health and healing that exists within the unconscious mind. And your body's totally healthy and totally whole. I believe that right now we're very conflicted in our society. And so the more wholeness and integration we can do, the more healthiness and the more inspired action that gets results you'll get. Because you're not fighting with yourself. So you're totally healthy, totally whole. I don't know. I say, I am God.
Yes, you are.
Yeah. And I focus on love and gratitude. And then whatever mantra that you're working on, if there's something that you're working on, then choose that and then say it over and over and look into your eyes while you're saying it. For some people, it's just plainly saying, I am enough. That was a mantra I had for a long time. I'm enough no matter what I'm doing right now. Again, a lot of people get tied to self-identity through action and what they're producing. And it's very important for us to know that even if you're not doing anything, that you're worthy and that you are good enough and you are lovable. And
sometimes the doing of nothing is exactly what you needed in that moment.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah.
It's good. I like that.
I like yours too.
Mine's a little bit more like chunked up, you know, fucking big picture.
Brandon's a
So-
sledgehammer.
So can you tell everybody where to find you on the interwebs?
Where can they find us?
On yagertraining.com. We have a
So yagertraining.com.
we have a Facebook group. It's called Mastering Sales for Coaches and Entrepreneurs. It's not just about sales. We've turned sales and NLP into a lifestyle, a way of living. One of the most spiritual journeys I've had so far is being an entrepreneur and learning how to sell. It was definitely a learning curve. And so we've turned it into a lifestyle, and we do a lot of free content in there, fun stuff of really living your best self. And then on our YouTube channel too, Yager Trading.
Yeah.
Selling yourself on new ideas of a better life and selling others on that life.
Yeah. Enrolling people in a different mission for this planet.
Yeah. Yeah. And for those who are listening on the podcast and not watching on Facebook, these are good looking people. If you nothing but just look at them on their videos,
You'll change.
They are good looking people. So yeah, so thank you so much for joining us and for chatting with us on this and rendering some perspective that people may not have. We are all about expanding perspective and getting people from different spaces of business, different spaces in life, different races, different ethnicities to come on here and really talk about what they're experiencing, so that we can all see that the things that we're dealing with are very similar from every walk of life. And no matter what your vocation is, no matter what your location is, no matter where you are, who you are, what your gender is, what your race is, your ethnicity, what your religious background is, we all share some very, very basic human principles and needs and the drive for connection and wellness. So thank y'all so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you,
We
guys.
love you. And you guys you're just looking at the mirror because you're fucking amazing looking, very hot.
You're a pretty sexy couple.
Yes,
too.
you are.
Especially when I shaved my head, then we looked pretty close, and that was starting to look a little weird.
Your head was
At
so
least now
beautiful.
we have
You're one of those few women that can pull that off so beautifully. Yeah.
See, but going along with thought, if something does something exist before you imagine it, right? Before it happens. So I actually spent time visualizing that what my head would look like. Because I was like, if no one's seen my shaved head, then what head exists outside of what is, unless I create it in the now? I did this whole thing. The thing that's crazy, legit. The thing that's crazy is it turned out exactly as I imagined. And it was one of those, I don't know if I believe that woo-woo shit, but I'll take it because my head totally worked for a shaved head.
It did. And it still does.
It still does.
I rub it all the time.
Rub it.
I'm not gonna rub it down.
Right.
I'll get beat up. All right. So any final words for the people, y'all?
I'd say for just in the situation we're in, just connection, like what you said, just continue to connect. We've been telling people hey, now's the time, get in front of video, connect with your people, connect with clients, just really, get through that, get past all this. I mean, what's crazy is, everybody's so unconnected now because we're afraid we're going to get something. So it's let's just find ways to still connect, right? And still share that love, pass on wisdom, help each other out. I mean, I think that's important right now. Just connect. Collaborate, connect more than ever. And whether it's over the phone, online, video, whatever it is, that's so important right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Indeed.
For me, it's oh, go ahead.
No, go.
Thank you for that, brother. Appreciate it.
For me, it's if you have been putting something on the back burner that that you're meant to be doing, or it's this incredible superpower or gift or something that you've always wanted to share and you didn't have the time to do it. Now you have the time, and now humanity needs it more than ever. So please, I am begging you, Do it. Take inspired action. Let go of whatever's getting in the way of it. You are beautiful. You are worthy. You can do it. The world needs your message now.
Mic drop.
That's the mic drop sound.
It is.
All right.
All right, we're going to say goodbye to the Facebook stream for now. This episode's going to come out later tonight. It'll be available on all the podcast locations tomorrow. We're doing interviews almost every day, right? We're going to bring these conversations, different perspectives. As we always say, we are not gurus. We have experience. We know a lot of amazing people, but the only thing we are masters of is our own perspective. And we're happy to share that as you watching, if you're watching on video, as you curate, craft, collaborate, deconstruct, reconstruct that version of you and become the master of you. We'd love to hear your perspective. So if you ever don't agree, share, because I don't need to agree if you agree or don't agree. So as always, share this episode with a friend. Fear spreads much faster, right? And what we're looking for is to bring more into the conversation than only fear. We're not saying fear doesn't exist. We're saying let's bring the and.
And with that, rate, review, subscribe, share with a friend. We love you. I'm Ta.
I'm Cole.
We are Ta Cole. This is Mentor in the Mirror.
Be free.